to do them. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if you hearken to these judgments, and keep and do them, that Yahweh your Elohim shall keep unto you the covenant and the mercy which he swore unto your fathers. He will love you and bless you and multiply you, and will also bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your land, your corn and your wine and your oil, the increase of your kind, and the flocks of your sheep, and in the land which he swore unto your fathers to give you. You shall be blessed above all people, and there shall not be male or female barren among you, or among your cattle. And Yahweh will take away from you all sickness, and will put none of the evil diseases of Mizraim which you know upon you, but will lay them upon all them that hate you. And you shall consume all the people which Yahweh your Elohim shall deliver you. Your eye shall have no pity upon them, neither shall you serve their gods, for that will be a snare unto you. If you shall say in your heart, these nations are more than I, how can I dispossess them? You shall not be afraid of them, but shall remember what Yahweh your Elohim did to Pharaoh and unto all Mitzrayim, the great temptations which your eyes saw, and the signs and the wonders, and the mighty hand and the stretched out arm whereby Yahweh your Elohim brought you out. So shall Yahweh your Elohim do unto all the people of whom you are afraid. Moreover, Yahweh your Elohim will send a hornet among them, until they that are left and hide themselves from you be destroyed. You shall not be affrighted at them, for Yahweh your Elohim is among you, a mighty El and terrible. And Yahweh your Elohim will put out those nations before you by little and little. You may not consume them at once, lest the beasts of the field increase upon you.
So if Yahweh is dispossessing them, he's kicking these people out the land, how are you going to cleave on to them and make marriages with these people, these specific nations of people that were inhabiting the land that Yahweh said, no, these people are evicted, get them out? So you can't make covenants and agreements, and marriage is just one type of covenant. You can't go into business with these people and start a family, a life, a friendship, a congregation. These specific people, you were supposed to separate from them and push them out. Little by little, they will be dispossessed from the land. And it's a specific group of people that he's speaking about right here. Go ahead.
Verse 11.
No. You're at verse 20, 23, 22.
Okay. Moreover, Yahweh your Elohim will send the hornet among them until they that are left and hide themselves from you be destroyed. You shall not be affrighted at them, for Yahweh your Elohim is among you, a mighty El and terrible.
We're at verse 23. At least the beasts of the field increase upon you. Verse 23.
But Yahweh your Elohim shall deliver them unto you, and shall destroy them with a mighty destruction until they be destroyed. And he shall deliver their kings into your hand, and you shall destroy their name from under heaven. There shall no man be able to stand before you until you have destroyed them.
So if you're supposed to destroy, if Yahweh is going to destroy their name from under the heaven, then you can't give your daughter to these people. Because now their name is continuing, because your daughter is now being absorbed into the name of the Canaanite father. So it was on both sides. It wasn't, okay, well, you can take the woman, but now you're prolonging that bloodline. And you can't give them your woman, because you're prolonging the people in the land, because you're not going to kill your wife's father. That's your father-in-law. You're going to have mercy on him, because you're going to be a respectful person, because that's your father-in-law. How you going to do that to your grandchildren? So there's a specific reason that Yahweh said these nations, get rid of them. Kill them all. Men, women, children, everything. Go ahead. Go ahead, Elder. Seriously. He didn't always. You don't need all distractions. Worshiping Satan for many, so hardcore. He said, come worship me, show you righteousness, unrighteous, before you learn righteousness. No, this is my take on this. It's my heritage.
And brother, also, when it came to that wickedness, Yahweh said it, have no pity. Show them no mercy. So, that's where we have to take into account the goodness, yet the severity of Yah when things are happening and are against his will.
Okay, verse 8.
Right.
And then you destroy the rest.
Right. And you have to also look at the fact that it takes the blood of the sinner to cleanse the land. So these people were cleaved on to a evil spirit, to a demonic spirit that caused them to do all kind of wicked acts. This is not man's nature to do the kind of, to take your child and burn it in the fire. This is not the type of acts that a human being does. So they were married unto other spirits, other demons that had to be moved out, that could easily inhabit the host of a holy people. So he was like, you got to kill them. You got to get rid of them. Get them out of there. All right, go ahead and finish that up.
The graven images of their gods shall you burn with fire. You shall not desire the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it unto you, lest you be snared therein. For it is an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim. Neither shall you bring an abomination into your house, lest you be a cursed thing like it. But you shall utterly detest it, and you shall utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing.
So if the abominable thing that is being put in there is cursed, so what you think a people that's cursed from wicked deeds and you bringing them in your house, what that does? Let's go to Genesis chapter 28. Because this is what Moshe is given, but this same understanding was around before the law was even given, that something is wrong with these people. Do not merge with these people. Genesis chapter 28, Bereshit chapter 28, and we're going to look at just even Yitzhak and how he instructed his son. He even instructed his son not to take wives of these people.
Genesis 28 and verse 1. And Yitzchak called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, You shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padanaram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take you a wife from there of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. And Almighty bless you, and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may be a multitude of people, and give you a blessing of Abraham to you, and to your seed with you, that you may inherit the land wherein you are a stranger, which Elohim gave unto Abraham.
So he's talking about, again, the Canaanites. Did not Noah say, cursed be Canaan? He shall be a servant of servants. So this is a cursed people. All the way from after the flood times, this is a cursed people because of what Ham did. So at the end of the day, he's telling his child, Yitzhak is having a father to son moment, saying, listen, son, let me give you some advice. Stay away from these people of this land. What was it about these people of this land? It was their actions, their deeds, their way of life that he was able to see this is not of Yahweh. And there's something about these people that when you get around them, they're going to cause you to do these deeds that they're doing. Because there's obviously a greater driving spirit that is driving these people to do these things. So he's telling them, stay away from these people. But he's telling them to go back to basically Syria, where your people come from, and go get a wife from over there. But stay away from here. But what I don't understand is, where did it get from these 7 Canaanite nations, which are what we call Africans? How does it get from those 7 dark-skinned melanin people to you can't marry a white woman?
How do you jump from there from a people? Yahweh ain't never one time said in this book, go over there to Europe and go kill Yafes people. Go kill Ashkenazi. Go kill the rest of the Euro Gentiles up there. Never did he say that. Now, if they come in your land to come fight against you, you're supposed to mop the floor with them. But this racist doctrine of you can't, it's okay, you can marry some African woman who could be of any of these Canaanite nations. That's okay. But you can't marry one of these Euro Gentiles. Now, you shouldn't be going outside, period. Much less whether it's a Hamite or whether it's a Euro Gentile. You should be trying to build your own nation like everybody else is building their nation. But to say, I'm going to own, just is no different than saying, oh, well, these white people are so wicked because they did slavery. Well, these same nations had us in slaves. It was melanin people. But so you forget it's okay when somebody of melanin enslaves you, but somebody without melanin enslaves you, then it's a whole wicked race of people. That's racism. And when you build a doctrine based off of that, you're going to miss your own brother who's your own bloodline stabbing you in the back, who may not even be an African or so-called Hamite. He might be your own Shemite Israel brother stabbing you in the back because you're looking for some pale-faced person to stab you in the back. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And Yitzchak sent away Yaakov, and he went to Padanaram unto Laban, son of Bethuel the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob and Esau's mother. And when Esau saw that Yitzchak had blessed Yaakov, he sent him away to Padanaram to take him a wife from there, and that as he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, You shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. And that Yaakov obeyed his father and his mother and was gone to Padanaram.
So this is what Yaakov does. This is what Israel does. Israel obeys his father. When his father gives him instructions, and our father is Yah, gives us instructions, we obey our father's instructions. But those that are not of Yah, they do what they want to do. Matter of fact, they go against the opposite of the father's instructions because it pleases them to do that. Go ahead.
Verse 9.
Verse 8.
And Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not his father.
Okay, Esau. This is a Shemite now. I don't know how Esau all of a sudden turned into some white dude. Like, he just all of a sudden he became a Euro Gentile. But this is Yaakov's twin brother. He saw that this did not please his father. So when he sees something doesn't please his father, then he does it. Go ahead.
Then went Esau unto Ishmael, and took unto the wives which he had Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, and the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife.
So Esau is going into Ishmael, which is another Shemite, which was Yitzchak's first son, Ishmael. Go ahead.
And Yaakov went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran, and he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there.
Excuse me, not Yitzchak's first son. Go ahead.
And he tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place and put them for pillows, and laid them down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of Elohim ascending and descending on it. And behold, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am Yahweh Elohim of Abraham your father, and the Elohim of Yitzchak. The land whereon you lie, to you will I give it, and to your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And in you and your seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed.
So this blessing is being put on his seed. It's being put on his seed, and this could only come about if the bloodline was moved in the direction that Yahweh wanted to move it. So he put that spirit on Yitzchak to instruct his son. And this was instructed all the way from Abraham, because Abraham was telling him to put that blessing on him. So all of this has been going on, and bloodlines are being mapped out in heaven, how things need to go. So how you can ensure that you're doing things the way it's supposed to be done is you follow the instructions of your father. Go ahead. Go ahead, Elder.
does not want. Matter of fact, when you go to Africa, they don't want to know who you are. People of this country don't need to know who they are because yes, who you are. That with you, tribe of Yehuda, Levi, here maybe a Benjamin with us. We all travel together. But I think that people need to start trying to characterize every one of Yaakov's children and the so-called people out here, and they are that nation.
Right.
That nation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Only place we can say has come no names likely here for the tribe of Yehuda and Levi and Benjamin. We know our people in the world. We know our people in Asia. All right, but we cannot say which one are in that nation, of that nation. But here, our people are confused because our folks have been called every name in the book, and they're looking for their heritage. But they wind up believing that they're African American, the same as that live and born in Africa, from Ham. So I'm glad we have this class and maybe don't on this. We'll study exactly who people are. Know who Yahweh said to eradicate, not make a covenant with, but assimilate it, might be assimilated in. Because we still don't know who we are.
Right.
Yahweh's going to sort us out later. We have to follow his will.
And that's what it all comes down to. We have been so intermingled and raped by slave masters and mixed with Hamites and Egyptians. And even in the bloodline of Israel, you're going to see, which we're going to get into, we'll see all kind of nations intermingled into us. But at the end of the day, the whole main precept that he was saying was these people going to cause you to worship another God. So that's the spirit that you need to really identify. You can't look at somebody and say that person is Israel because they're melanin. The whole earth was melanin till something happened. Now, I can't pinpoint what happened. I can point out a few things in his book that could be how it happened. But at the end of the day, it wasn't as easy as melanin because it was melanin people around us. But it's a certain spirit of not wanting to obey the Father. That's what you have to look for. That's what you have to identify in a wife. And these particular nations that he pointed out, which we can't identify now. But back then, it was identifiable. He would say, these nations, you need to stay away from them because they will cause you to not obey your Father. So you fast forward 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years later, you can't identify it by a region. Well, because they're in Nigeria, that's some Africans or that's some Hamites. You can't identify that anymore because we have been placed into the four corners of the earth. So all you can really hold on to is who is serving the Father, who is not. Who is fostering an environment for you to grow and serve the Father, who's making it difficult for you. That's how you separate yourself. But what people want to do is they want to put us all in this same Pan-African thing, like everybody from the same part of Africa. No, we're not. Furthermore, the term Africa is proportional. They decided, they cut away Israel from Africa. It wasn't as much as a continent. It was more about a region, a place of the earth where certain people dwelt. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 14. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and shall be spread abroad to the west, to the east, to the north, to the south, and in your seed shall all families of the earth be blessed. Verse 15. And behold, I am with you, and I will keep you in all places where you go, and I will bring you again into this land, for I will not leave you until I have done that which I have spoken to you of.
All right, so in saying that in your seed all the families of the earth will be blessed, this is also the reason why we were dispersed everywhere, so all these nations can be blessed. They weren't going to be blessed by us taking a hold of their ways and worshiping their gods. They'd be blessed by us separating from them while being amongst them, and those that Yahweh call will come and cleave onto us and cleave onto our culture. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And Jacob awaked out of his sleep, and he said, Surely Yahweh is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of heaven. And Yaakov rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of that city was called Luz at the first. And Yaakov vowed a vow, saying, if Elohim will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall Yahweh be my Elohim, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be Elohim's house. And of all that you shall give me, I will surely give the 10th unto you.
All right. Go ahead, brother.
You look also. Definitely.
30.
Yahweh, which is to fear, morally to revere, frightened, affrighted, be made afraid, dreadful, put in fear, fearful, reverence, terrible act. So there's many, there's many instances of that, but this is more on the respect, like in the same sense of you will fear. The fear of Yah is the beginning of knowledge. Well, that's not a trembling, like, I'm running away from Yah, like how Adam did in the garden. It was more of a reverence fear. Look, I fear losing, coming out of the grace of the Most High. I fear not following his instructions and disappointing my father. It was more of that type of fear. H3372. So let's move on again. We're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 20. Devarim chapter 20. And we're getting in these laws and how we deal with these other nations. The Canaan, from what we see so far, according to Torah, the 7 nations of Canaan, we are not to make any covenant with these people. So marriage is out of the question. Period. But how do we identify who the Canaanites are this day? We can't. You can't. So you can't just say, well, that's a black woman that came here by slavery, because it was Hamites that came here too. You don't know that. So what we can identify is who we should not be marrying is anybody that's going to push us away from being obedient to the Most High. So it doesn't matter if she was Israel or not. You shouldn't marry somebody that is pushing you away from serving the Most High, that's trying to make you do covenants with the adversary, the devil. That's the best way we can identify Canaan at this point. You can't say, well, she from this land, so she's that, because there's Israelites everywhere. We have dispersed. Deuteronomy 28 tell you in the next few chapters, it's going to show you that we are going to be removed into every nation of the earth. So you have to go beyond just the color of somebody's skin or what nation somebody claims. And you have to look at what was the root of it. The root of it was they were going to cause you to worship their gods, to be a pagan worshiper, to be a heathen like them. Devarim chapter 20.
When you go out to battle against your enemies and see horses and chariots and a people more than you, be not afraid of them, for Yahweh your Elohim is with you, which brought you up out of the land of Mitzrayim.
So who is this talking about? When you goes out to battle against your enemies, is this talking about Israel? Your enemies and see his horses and chariots and more people than you, be not afraid of them, for Yahweh is with you. So Yahweh gonna be with you to go fight your own people? This is talking about the nations. This is not talking about Israel. Go ahead.
And it shall be when you are come near unto battle that the priest shall approach and speak unto the people, and shall say unto them, Hear, O Yasharal, you approach this day unto battle against your enemies. Let not your hearts faint, fear not, and do not tremble, neither be you terrified because of them. For Yahweh your Elohim is he that goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to save you. And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, What man is there that has built a new house and has not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle and another man dedicate it. And what man is he that has planted a vineyard and has not eaten of it? Let him also go and return to his house, lest he die in battle and another man eat of it. What man is there that has betrothed a wife and has not taken her? Let him go and return unto his house, lest he die in the battle and another man take her. And the officers shall speak further unto the people and shall say, What man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return unto his house, lest his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart.
So even the spirit of fear will cause you not to go do the act that your father is commanding you to do. If your father is commanding you to defend your nation, to go out and take out another nation, to dispossess somebody from a land, that's your father's instructions. If you have a heart not to do your father's instructions, there's a certain spirit about that. Remove him. Get him out of here. And then also there's other situations where it just might not be your time. You're a young man that just betrothed the wife. His bloodline needs to go ahead and continue on, or else we're going to lose that piece of inheritance. We get that. We understand that. But also the fear and faint-hearted. You will cause your people to inherit that same spirit that you're bringing around. So this is even within Israel, that you can't even have certain people with certain spirits around you, because you will cause other people to receive that same spirit. So it's not just another nation thing. Even within your own people, there's a separation. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And it shall be when the officers have made an end of speaking unto the people, that they shall make captains of the armies to lead the people.
After you get the cowards out of here, after you get the young men that can't fight, after you get somebody that, is in a bad situation, it's not his time. He will have his time later, but now is not his time. Then you pick your captains and your leaders. Go ahead.
When you come near unto the city to fight against it, then proclaim peace unto it.
Now, is this the Canaanite nations? Because we're not supposed to proclaim peace to the Canaanite nations. We're supposed to dispossess them and destroy everything in that land. So these are other nations they're talking about right now. And this is not Israel. Because we're not supposed to be going in Israel and fighting our own people like that. We have a covenant of brotherhood. How are we going to put out a whole tribe? So these are the other nations that are far off, which we're going to see later. It's going to read. Go ahead.
And it shall be, if it make you answer of peace and open unto you, then it shall be that all the people that is found therein shall be tributaries unto you. They shall serve you. And if it will make no peace with you, but will make war against you, then you shall besiege it. And when Yahweh your Elohim has delivered it into your hands, you shall smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword. But the women and the little ones, and the cattle, and all that is in the city, even all the spoil thereof, shall you take unto yourself, and you shall eat of the spoil of your enemies, which Yahweh your Elohim has given you.
Okay. You can't take of these Canaanite women of those 7 nations. You're supposed to kill all of them. But here it said kill the males. So the women going to get absorbed into your culture. The children are going to get absorbed into your culture. They'll be raised in righteousness, and they're going to have to follow the laws. But the women, you can take of those women. Matter of fact, there's instructions on how to deal with that. But this is not talking about those 7 Canaanite nations. So this would include Euro-Gentiles. Euro-Gentiles don't live in the Canaanite nations. That's not them. So if you go to war with those people, according to Deuteronomy here, and you kill off the men, and if you wanted to take the woman and child, you could do so. Go ahead.
Verse 15. Thus shall you do unto all the cities which are very far off from you, which are not of the cities of these nations.
Okay, so just in case you misunderstood, you couldn't read between the lines. He's going to go over this again to make sure that Yahweh does not need anybody adding anything to his word. He makes sure, he knows how gainsaying we are as a people. He makes sure you understand what is lawful and what is not lawful. But once again, I repeat,
Just because it's lawful does not mean it's expedient. But if it's not lawful, it's not expedient. It's not good for you. Go ahead.
But of the cities of these people, which Yahweh your Elohim does give you for an inheritance, you shall save alive nothing that breathes.
Everything that breathes supposed to die. Go ahead.
But you shall utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites.
Namely, so he's telling you specifically. Go ahead.
The Hittites, the Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and the Jebusites, as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you.
Why?
That they teach you not to do after all their abominations which they have done unto their gods, so should ye sin against Yahweh your Elohim.
So these other nations that were very far off, they weren't very spiritual. They didn't really have a lot of different gods and didn't have all these different things. It had to be brought to them. These are like the Greeks, and they didn't have all that stuff. They were philosophers, and they had all these different things. They heard about other gods. And when they heard about that stuff, they cleaved on to what they wanted to cleave on to. So you could go to those nations and spread righteousness to them, and they would absorb it. But these nations right here, there was something about these nations, some kind of curse that was on them, probably that curse from Noah, that said, these people are going to be cursed. Kill them off. Nothing good is going to come out of these people. Because what they're going to do is put that fear on you. That same fear that'll cause you not to go fight against your enemies. That fear that'll cause you not to keep the commandments. Go ahead.
Verse 19. When you shall besiege a city a long time and making war against it to take it, you shall not destroy the trees thereof by forcing an axe against them, for you may eat of them, and you shall not cut them down, for the tree of the field is a man's life, to employ them in the siege. Only the trees which you know that they be not trees for meat, you shall destroy and cut them down. You shall build bulwarks against the city and make war with the city that makes war with you until it be subdued.
All right. So you can take of the wives of the nations that are far away. And let me repeat this. I'm not telling anybody to go take a woman that is of Israel of another nation. I preach against that. I think you need to take our women, we need to rebuild our nation. We have been brought down to a low status. We need to prepare to go back into our land and take our inheritance. But at the end of the day, if somebody did that before they came into this word, before they knew who they were and how to build a nation and what your calling was, as long as it wasn't a woman of the Canaanite nations, you didn't break a law. Now, again, how do you know a woman in the Canaanite nation? You don't know. But if you take a woman, whether she Israel or not Israel, and she's causing you not to serve Yahweh, Yahshua made that point very clear. You need to separate from that woman. It's better you go in there without an eye or a leg or arm or whatever than not go to the kingdom at all. But that's only supposed to be for a time period. Yah hates putting away. So why would he tell you, okay, you got a woman of another nation, whatever nation she is, and she is assimilating to the word. She's coming into your fold and keeping the commandments and encouraging you to be righteous. Why would you put her away because you think she's not an Israelite or she's of another nation that is obviously not of the Canaanite nation? Only racists would tell you to do that. Go ahead. Did we finish that up?
Yep.
Let's go to Devarim chapter 21. We're just going to read 11 through 14. And it's going to give you instructions about when you deal with these women of these other nations that were far off, how you had to handle that. Deuteronomy chapter 21, and we're going to read verses 11 through 14.
Verse 11. And let me start. You want me to start at verse 10 when it brings up going to war against your enemies?
Yes, sir.
All
Yes,
right.
sir.
When you go forth to war against your, and this is verse 10, Deuteronomy 21, verse 10. When you go forth to war against your enemies, and Yahweh your Elohim has delivered them into your hands, and you have taken them captive, and see among the captives a beautiful woman, and has a desire unto her, that you would have her to your wife, then you shall bring her home to your house, and she shall shave her head, and pare her nails.
Is this talking about the people that were in the land of Israel?
No.
No. You can't do that to your brother. You can't go fight your brother and shave off her head and pare her and let her nails grow and then call her your wife. That's wickedness. King David got dealt with for doing that. And that wasn't even an Israelite he did that to. But this is when you go to war against these other nations that are far off. Because obviously it's not talking about Canaan, because it says Canaan, you're not supposed to make covenants with them. You're supposed to kill off all these people. So Yah is giving you specific instructions on how to deal with prisoners of war. Go ahead.
Verse 11, verse 12, this is verse 13. And she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in your house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that you shall go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. And it shall be, if you have no delight in her, then you shall let her go wherever she will. You shall not sell her at all for money. You shall not make merchandise of her, because you have humbled her.
So even Yah is showing mercy unto this woman whose husband was killed off in war. Her father was probably killed off in war too, because it was a male. And she's left and she's taken and removed from her husband and brought into a wife. And if she can't assimilate and if she can't be a good wife unto him, you can let her go. You can cast her off. But at the end of the day, you can't make her, you can't pimp her. You can't turn her into a prostitute or turn her into a slave, because you done humbled her. You done brought her into your wife. That's not how we deal with people. So let's go to Numbers chapter 36. And another thing that what people will talk about is, oh, you're not even supposed to marry outside of your own tribe. Well, who is that pertaining to? We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. And see, these are all people cherry pick scriptures all the time. They cherry pick so they can put out their doctrine of how they feel to deal with their trauma, however they've felt it. But we've all gone through trauma. We've all dealt with different things. But at the end of the day, it's supposed to get rid of those things that are within us and assimilate to this word. Assimilate to lawfulness, righteousness. Numbers chapter 36. Bamidbar chapter 36. So we're going to deal with that about marrying out of your tribe. And anytime you look at these commandments, the first thing to do is to learn what is the commandment. Learn outright what you're to do, what you're not to do. Then the next step is to understand, well, why is Yahweh telling us to do a certain thing? So that you understand why he's saying the commandment is this way. You can serve that law in your flesh and in your mind, because now you understand why you're doing a certain thing. And that will also cause you to be more likely to keep the commandment, because you'll feel like, well, I don't want to do this because I understand why I'm instructed not to do this. So there was a reason why a certain group of people were told not to marry out of their tribe. And he's going to be specific. Yahweh don't leave vague things. He's very specific. And if he's vague about something, it's for a reason.
Bamidbar, Numbers 36, verse 1. And the chief fathers of the families of the children of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of the sons of Joseph, came near and spoke before Moshe and before the princes, the chief fathers of the children of Yasharal. And they said, Yahweh commanded my sovereign to give the land for an inheritance by lot to the children of Yasharal. And my sovereign was commanded by Yahweh to give the inheritance of Zelophehad, our brother, unto his daughters. And if they be married to any of the sons of the other tribes of the children of Yasharal, then shall their inheritance be taken from the inheritance of our fathers, and shall be put to the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they are received. So shall it be taken from the lot of our inheritance.
Okay, so it's talking about these daughters here who their husbands died before they had sons, and there was no next of kin of male close enough for that inheritance to go to them. So they had to say, Moshe came out and said, no, it stays with the women. It's usually goes with the men, but in this situation, so that it stays within the tribe area and it doesn't go out to some other man of another tribe, it stays with the women. But the men of that nation, of that tribe, were concerned that, well, what if this woman marries somebody in Judah? She's supposed to be Manasseh. What if she marries somebody in Judah? Then now you got northern Israel way up here, and Judah over here in the east. There's land, just like how Atlanta is. This is Fulton County. Then you go past DeKalb and Gwinnett and all the way here. Now you're in North Fulton. That don't make no sense. That's trying to take advantage of a situation. So Yahweh wanted to prevent that. So he's going to enact and clarify the law pertaining to how these women in this situation were supposed to marry. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And when the Jubilee of the children of Yasharal shall be, then shall their inheritance be put unto the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they are received. So shall their inheritance be taken away from the inheritance of the tribe of our fathers. And Moshe commanded the children of Yasharal according to the word of Yahweh, saying, the tribe of the sons of Joseph has said well. This is the thing which Yahweh does command concerning the daughters of Zelophehad, saying, let them marry to whom they think best. Only to the family of the tribe of their father shall they marry.
All right. So this is saying Moshe commanded the children of Yasharal according to the word of Yahweh, saying the tribes of the sons of Joseph have said well. This is the thing which Yahweh command concerning the daughters of Zelophehad, saying, let them marry to whom they think best. Only of the family of the tribe of their father shall they marry. This is talking about the daughters. This is talking about the women. The man can marry whatever tribal woman he wants because it's still going to be in his tribe. But if that woman he's marrying does not have brothers or somebody else to inherit that land, a next of kin, then you can't marry that woman. But it wasn't about you. It was about that woman and her inheritance of her father, making sure it stayed in that particular land. But somehow it got to when you can't marry outside of your tribe. That's what happens when you cherry pick, when you don't read the precept and see, well, what is this concerning? And he's going to clarify it. Keep going.
Verse 7. So shall not the inheritance of the children of Yasharal remove from tribe to tribe.
That's the precept. So the inheritance in any tribe of Yasharal does not move from tribe to tribe. Go ahead.
For every one of the children of Yasharal shall keep himself to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers. And every daughter that possesses an inheritance in any tribe of the children of Yasharal shall be wife unto one of the family of the tribe of her father, that the children of Yasharal may enjoy every man the inheritance of his fathers.
So every daughter that possesses an inheritance in any tribe. Many daughters don't possess inheritances. If she has older brothers, it goes to them. She don't possess that. So if you are a daughter that possesses an inheritance in any tribe of the children of Yasharal, you shall be a wife to one of the family of the tribe of your father, period. And why would you have to say the tribe of her father? Why not the tribe of her mother? Keep it in the family because the tribe of her mother may be a different tribe, because it's not illegal to marry a woman of another tribe. But it's talking about keeping your inheritance. If you are a daughter, that inherits, that means there's no man to inherit. So we need to keep the land where it needs to be. This is one of the great wickednesses with Jezebel. Jezebel was trying to take an inheritance, causing her husband, a king, to take the inheritance of another tribe. Because I like the land. It looks nice. That's wickedness. Go ahead and finish it out.
Verse 9. Neither shall the inheritance remove from one tribe to another tribe, but every one of the tribes of the children of Yasharal shall keep himself to his own inheritance. Even as Yahweh commanded Moshe, so did the daughters of Zelophehad. For Mahala, Tirzah, and Hoglah, and Milcah, and Noah, the daughters of Zelophehad, were married unto their father's brothers' sons. And they were married into the families of the sons of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in the tribe of the family of their father. These are the commandments and the judgments which Yahweh commanded by the hands of Moshe unto the children of Yasharal in the plains of Moab by Jordan, near Jericho.
So this is another one of those scriptures that people like to cherry pick to push their racism. To say, oh, well, you can't even marry outside your tribe. How you gonna marry a woman, a Hispanic woman, or you gonna marry an Asian woman, or you gonna marry a white woman? You ain't supposed to marry out of your tribe. And they go in here and they cherry pick scriptures to push their racism. Now, if you want to speak and you say, hey, brother, you need to go ahead and stay with your people so that we can rebuild our nation, then more power to you. Then I would agree with you. But to sit here and try to use the scripture to push your doctrine because you don't like white people, or you dark skinned and you don't like light skinned people, then you got a problem. So what if this dude, he'd say, oh, well, I ain't gonna marry a woman of another nation, and I live around another nation. And I'm around a bunch of other people of another nation. So he picked the first black woman he find, and this woman a Canaanite at heart and the spirit. It caused him to worship other gods. That's okay because at least he with a black woman. That's racism. Let's go to Devarim chapter 23. And we're going to deal with this whole you ain't Israel if your mommy and your daddy ain't Israel. First of all, that's a pile of crap. If that's the case, and anybody that pushes that type of doctrine, you basically saying the Mashiach and King David ain't Israel.
Thank you.
Watch what you say. It's this Willie Lynch stuff is still going on in our society. Deuteronomy chapter 23, and we're just going to read verses 11 through 14. Now that we set the stage of understanding why we had to be separated from certain nations, what was the root cause of this separation? Was causing us to serve other gods. So if you have a marriage like that, where you have a husband or a wife that is causing you to worship other gods, the child is going to grow up in an environment where he's confused, where, my mother is worshiping, it wants to put my little brother in the fire or my big brother in the fire. And then my father's like, no, we need to do righteousness. I'm circumcised, but my brother ain't circumcised because my mom didn't want it, and this, that, and it just causes issues. So Yahweh was trying to avoid that. And he was trying to say, you know what? To ensure that this doesn't happen, if you're in this situation, you're going to remain separated for a time period until generation after generation after generation is raised in this land in righteousness. So I know this is not going to be a problem.
And brother, you sit and you meditate on Yah's laws and why he set certain things a certain way. And you see how man does stuff, especially you being positioned at your workplace. You would understand that once you implement a policy at the workplace, you can't have too many people or just anybody take charge over that thing, or else it's going to be changed.
Right.
You're going to say, Thursdays is blue shoes.
Right.
Before you know it, you start switching it around too much. They wearing whatever they want, but it's against that policy that you said. It don't matter what it is, but when it comes to Yah's law, he wants it specifically done a certain way, which is why he doesn't want the inheritances going to other nations. He doesn't want necessarily for a king to be set over Yasharal that isn't of your own people, because whoever that king is coming from might do whatever he wants to do in the better interest of whatever nation he's coming from.
Exactly. Or
even taking the daughters, or you had Shlomo taking daughters of women from who were worshiping way other gods.
Right.
And here he goes building temples and doing things to the interest of where his heart was, which is with these foreign women.
Right.
And not for Yah. So Yah knows what it takes to make sure that an order does not change. Just like DNA. Whenever you have DNA, it replicates exactly the way it was before.
Right.
Exactly the same genetic information it was before. And how do you get humans to do that? You give them the same law.
Right.
So that everything is done according to this law exactly the same way. And if we begin to take advantage of it and say, okay, we're going to do it a different way, what does that do in DNA? That causes mutation. It causes cancer.
One less chromosome or one too many chromosomes. Problem. It needs to be exactly the way it is. That's why I said don't add from this word and don't remove from this word. Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 23, and we're just going to read verses 1 through 8. Deuteronomy, chapter 23, 1 through 8.
He that is wounded in the stones or has his privy member cut off shall not enter into the congregation of Yahweh. A mongrel shall not enter into the congregation of Yahweh. Even to his 10th generation, he shall not enter into the congregation of Yahweh.
All right. So here in the English version, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of Yahweh. Even unto his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of Yahweh. So that means a bastard, and we're going to define that definition from that first generation all the way up, even to that 10th generation, he can't enter. But that 11th generation can enter because he has been in the land for 11 generations. And at that time, he's proven that he's going to worship according to the land. So let's look at this definition of a bastard. It's H4464, mamzer. H4464, mamzer. From an unused, mamzer spelled M-A-M-Z-E-R. From an unused root, mien, to alienate, a mongrel. That is born of and it says Jewish father, which is, you can already tell these definitions are touched because it's talking about Jewish. Okay, what is Jewish? So if you of the other northern tribes, then this has nothing to do with that. This is talking about Yasharal, being born of a father of Yasharal and a heathen mother. And every instance of the word heathen just meant goyim, nation, a mother of another nation. So when you are a child that is of a father that is an Israelite and a mother of another nation in the land of Israel, you are not supposed to come into the congregation, which means the assembly of Yah's people, for 11 generations. After that 11th generation of you being in that land and having children and doing this and doing that, then you could finally assimilate into that. But there's further descriptions. Again, he deals with general nations, general Goyim nation. Now he's going to drill in specifically to other nations where he's like, nah. Verse 3.
An Ammonite or Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of Yahweh, even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of Yahweh forever.
So an Ammonite or a Moabite shall never enter into the congregation of Yahweh. Why they can't enter into that? Well, first of all, for you to be an Ammonite or Moabite means that you're not a bastard. You can't even be a bastard because your father ain't Israel. Or else you would be an Israelite that's mixed. No, an Ammonite or a Moabite means somebody whose father was an Ammonite, whose father was a Moabite, and maybe their mother might have been Israel, might have been a Israelitish woman. So it's talking about the Ammonites and the Moabites shall never enter into the congregation of Yahweh forever. It don't matter who they marry. It don't matter what, if he married 10 Hebrew women. They not coming into the congregation forever. Why? Go ahead, verse 4.
Because they met you not with bread and with water, and in the way when you came forth out of Mizraim, because they hired against you Balaam the son of Beor of Pethor of Mesopotamia to curse you.
So these people hired somebody to curse you. If you hire somebody and you try to get a prophet to curse the children of Yasharal, you're putting a curse. What the thing that you would have do to somebody is going to be done to you. So this is what happened to them. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, Yahweh your Elohim would not hearken unto Balaam, but Yahweh your Elohim turned the curse into a blessing unto you, because Yahweh your Elohim loved you. You shall not seek their peace nor their prosperity all your days forever. You shall not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not abhor an Egyptian, because you are a stranger in his land.
Okay, so you cannot hate an Edom, Esau. You can't hate him. That's your brother. Now, he's not your Israelite brother, but he's your brother as far as Jacob's brother. So you can't hate him. And the Egyptian, which is a Hamite. You can't hate him, but Egyptian is not, Mizraim is not of the Canaanite nations. That's different. Even from the Exodus, well, these Israelites, their women, they're different.
They're different than these women of these Egyptians. They ain't as lively. So if a woman ain't lively like that, she gonna assimilate to your culture. She not gonna cause you to try to worship another god, because she not like Israel. Now Israel, we get with another nation, and we gonna make sure that you gonna assimilate to us. That's how it was supposed to be. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Verse 8.
Mm-hmm.
The children that are begotten of them shall enter into the congregation of Yahweh in their third generation.
So the children that are begotten, when you have a male that is sleeping with an Edomite or an Egyptian, they can come into the congregation in the third generation. So if you turn around and you call an all white man as Esau, then according to this law, after 3 generations, they can come in there when you marry an Edomite. But that's not what that's talking about. This is talking about your twin brother here. Because both of these people look like you. Edom looked like you because that was Jacob's twin brother. In Egypt looks like you because that's where we went to hide from people. They thought Saul was an Egyptian. Yeshua hid amongst Egyptians. Moshe, they thought he was an Egyptian. So obviously these people look like us. After their third generation, they can come in the assembly and assimilate. Right.
Verse 9. When the host goes forth against your enemies, then keep you from every wicked thing. If there be among you any man that is not clean by reason of uncleanness, that chance him by night, then shall he go abroad out of the camp, shall not come within the camp. But it shall be when evening come on, he shall wash himself with water, and when the sun is down, he shall come into the camp again.
Right. So let's go to and let's look at the definition of congregation, just so that we understand what this is talking about. Congregation is H6951. H6951. For hall. Spelled Qahal. For hall, which is from H6950, assemblage. Usually concretely assembly, company, congregation, multitude. So these people cannot come into our assembly. They can't be with us. They can dwell in the land. They can be in the land, but they don't keep their holy days with us. They don't come keep Shabbat with us. They definitely not coming into the temple, but they can be in your land. They can work for you. They can do stuff. They can do all different things, but they cannot come into the assembly of Yahweh's people up to these specific points. So let's go to Matthew chapter 1. And we're just going to read 1 through 6 again, just to deal with those people, which is a racist doctrine, trying to say that if your mom and your dad are not Israel, then you're not Israel.
And also here, brother, there was a footnote that I had here about that, and it said, mongrel, derived from Hebrew manzer. The meaning of this word is uncertain. The Strong's defines it as a child born of a Jewish father and heathen mother. The Brown, Jiver, and Briggs Hebrew lexicon adds a child of incest or illegitimate child.
Right.
According to Talmudic exegesis, this refers to a child of incestuous relations.
Right. Now that's that's dealing with the Talmud, which is like oral law. So, but I mean, I do take that as a grain of salt, because it does make sense when it talks about Lot, like what the elder said. When you have incestuous children, you know that's an issue. That's an abomination. You have something else? Yeah, Moab and Ammon is those are the two tribes that came from. Right. And that does make sense why it talks about the Moabite and Ammonite can't ever come into the assembly. Right.
Not even.
But again, for you to be a Moabite or Ammonite means that your father was a Moabite or Ammonite. Period. If your father was not a Moabite or Ammonite, then you're not a Moabite or Ammonite. We're going to get into that. But that was a woman. Right. So we're just going to read Matthew 1 through 6. Again, just dispelling anybody that would try to say that if your mom and your dad is not Israel, then you're not Israel. Now, if your dad is not Israel, then you're not Israel. It is what it is. You got some Israel in you. You take an apple seed and you plant it over here in my lawn. If it grows, it's going to be an apple tree. You take an apple seed and you plant it in your house. If it grows, an apple tree is going to grow. The Father determines the seed. You're not going to plant an apple tree in two different soils and an orange tree grow up. That ain't going to happen. I don't care how much you like it. I don't care if you spray the apple orange or whatever, or it look very orangish. Orange juice is not coming out of it.
Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. The book of the generation of Yahshua Mashiach, the son of Dawid, the son of Abraham. Abraham begat Yitzchak, and Yitzchak begat Jacob, and Jacob begat Yehudis and his brethren, and Yehudis begat Phares,
which is Yehuda, right?
And Zara of Tamar, and Phares begat Ursam, and Ursam begat Aram, and Aram begat Aminadab, and Aminadab begat Nasan, and Nasan begat Salmon. Salmon begat Boaz of Rechab, and Boaz begat Obed of Ruth, and Obed begat Yesse.
So verse 5, Salmon begot Boaz of Rahab. Rahab was from Jericho. That was not an Israelite. So there's already a assimilation right there. She received mercy because she cleaved on to the children of Yasharal. Period. She had to stay in that because once she got freed and her family got free, if she went back to harlotry, which is worshiping these other gods, she would not be able to live in Yasharal. She'd be put to death. So Boaz begot Obed of Ruth. Boaz married Ruth. Ruth is a Moabite. So you got Jericho and Moabite in Yesse. And we all know who Yesse was. Yesse was King David's father. Go ahead.
And Yesse begat Dawid, the king. And Dawid, the king, begat Shlomo of her, that had been the wife of Uriah.
All right. So if you make a statement by trying to tell people that if your father and your mother are not Israel, then you're basically saying that King David is not Israel. Now, you can try to go into that. I've seen people try to push that everybody was Israel in the book. That don't fit. You have to create a doctrine to make it fit because it clearly tells you what was going on in this book, and we're going to read it.
Brother,
Go ahead, Elder. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You deny this.
You denying Christ.
You deny.
Right. And that's exactly what it is. Yahweh could have used anybody's seed. He could have said, no, I took this seed directly from Abraham. He could have did whatever he wanted. He chose David for a reason. And look where this intermarriage is so close to the lineage of King David. This is why they called him Ruddy. Because he was different looking than the rest of the brothers. He had a little different lineage in him. But he was still Israel. Go ahead and finish it out.
And Shlomo begat Rehoboam, and Rehoboam begat Abiah, and Abiah begat Asa, and Asa begat Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat begat Joram, and Joram begat Ozias.
All right, we can stop right there. All right, so let's move on. We're going to go to Leviticus chapter 24, YahNatan chapter 24. We're just going to read 10 through 16, and we're going to address, again, this bastard, this mamzer, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Yahakra, chapter 24, and we're going to read 10 through 16. Why it was an issue and why they wanted to wait a certain period of time for these mixed children before they could just come into the assembly.
I think it's interesting, even though all the way into Yahshua, Bathsheba is still being who it says who had been Uriah's wife.
Right. They letting you know Yahweh say, I ain't forgot that.
That's
just because
sting.
Yahshua came here. That wasn't right what he did.
That
And we are
is
still
sting.
paying for it. Yahakra chapter 24, and we're going to read 10 through 16. So all of this is back when we had a lineage, we had paperwork to show who we were, what tribe we were from, who our fathers were, the deeds that our fathers did, who was the king. We had all these things back in those days. We don't have none of that stuff. At least we don't have access to it. So nobody can sit here and make all these claims about, well, you know, you this, you that. Just because a brother darker than you don't mean he Israel. Or just because a brother is lighter than you don't mean he not Israel. Or vice versa. But what people are going to be judged on is how are you pertaining to this book? That's what determines if you Israel. Because at the end of the day, all these other nations going to have to assimilate to this book if they want to live. And at the end of this day, there's 12 gates to get into that kingdom, and they got a name of each tribe on it. And there's an angel before every one. So he ain't going to look at you and be like, oh, yeah, he dark-skinned. He over here. Judah. Oh, no, he light-skinned. He Yosef. He Manasseh. He Puerto Rican, the Puerto Rican tribe over there. That ain't going to happen. First of all, you ain't even going to be in a position to walk to the gates if you ain't keeping these commandments.
That's right.
So let's focus on the weightier matters. Yahakra chapter 24, and we're going to read verses 10 through 16.
And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, command the children of Yasharal that they bring...
Leviticus
24?
chapter 24.
Verse 10, okay. And the son of an Israelitish woman, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the children of Yasharal. And this son of the Israelitish woman and a man of Israel strove together in the camp.
All right. So if his mom is Israel and his father was an Egyptian, then what is he?
Foreigner.
He's an Egyptian. He's just an Egyptian that got an Israelite mom.
Israelite, and it was
Right.
He still was Greek, but he followed
What his mom did. Right.
his mama taught him. Yeah.
These are the strangers that sojourn among them.
Right. So he could blend right in because he looked just like everybody else. He might have had his hair might have been a little bit wavier. He might have had a little bit less facial hair. But at the end of the day, he blend right in because his father was an Egyptian. We were mistaken for Egyptians. And his mother was an Israelite, so he learned Israelite culture, so he would have known enough to dress a certain way, act a certain way, and would know a certain thing. But the problem is, head of that household worship multiple gods. Most likely. Go ahead.
And they brought him unto Moses. And the Israelites,
11, yeah.
And the Israelites' woman's son blasphemed the name of Yahweh and cursed. And they brought him unto Moshe. And his mother's name was Shalomith, the daughter of Dibri of the tribe of Dan.
All right. So his mother, the mother's name was Shelomith, the daughter of Dibri, the tribe of Dan. So his mother was a Danite. The father was an Egyptian. And at the end of the day, when he get mad, throw Yahweh out the window. Where did he get that from? Who he learned that from? Most likely learned that from his father. Because when the father get mad, he don't care about Yahweh. Look, just because that's your wife's, that's your mama's God. I got 10 different gods. My God got a dog head. You know what I'm saying? And my other God, he got a bird head. If I don't like that God, I just go deal with this one. I don't give a damn about Yahweh. That's where he picking this up. And this is what the child grows up in when you got a mother that's a father that's a heathen and a mother that's an Israelite.
or vice versa. It really don't matter. There's going to be confusion in that household. Now, does it really have to be an Israelite mother and an Egyptian father? What if it was an Israelite father and a mother from a whole nother nation? And the mother is like, nah, we need to keep these commandments. But she of another nation, but the father, like, he know he Israel, but he don't care. It's going to cause a problem in that household. So at the end of the day, it's that spirit. It's a spirit of somebody not wanting to be obedient to the Most High, to give the reverence and the glory to the Most High. That is going to cause a problem in that household. It doesn't matter what race or nation you are from. That is going to cause a problem. Go ahead, Elder.
Also,
Mm-hmm.
the Jewish people, Yahweh,
Right.
or the children learn, so you
Right.
right here, they had like this woman,
Right.
Egyptian father. If you look at their culture, that's not our culture.
Then their son is an Israelite because
That's
their
right.
mama is of Dan.
They mother, they forced, to, they used to be where you could go marry an Israelite woman.
Right.
Yet the father, you know what I mean, will be whatever. But you're really thinking that you're getting your heritage through your mother.
Right. Right.
You know, that's twisted. And tell you right here, you're not.
Right. And you can see clearly where that doctrine came from. You see, was it Herod? Herod tried to marry. He was an Edomite. Tried to marry a bunch of Israelite women and try to change the law. Well, see, I'm Israel now. I'm the king of Israel, and I'm Israel because I got three Israelite women. Nah, bro. You see how they just reconciled the seed. We weren't talking about the mamas. We were talking about the fathers.
Verse 12. And they put him in word that the mind of Yahweh might be showed them. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, Bring forth him that has cursed without the camp, and let all that heard him lay their hands upon his head, and let all the congregation stone him.
All right. Well, why they had to even talk about that is because, wait a minute, his father from another nation. Can we really come in here and do this? Can we really do this? You dwelling in our land. You came in here and cursed our Elohim. We don't care about you, Egyptian daddy. That child finna die. Go ahead.
We should just
Mm-hmm.
think about Moshe.
We're going to get into that. We're getting into all that.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 15. And you shall speak unto the children of Yasharal, saying, Whosoever curses his Elohim shall bear his sin. And he that blasphemes the name of Yahweh shall surely be put to death, and all the congregation shall certainly stone him, as well as a stranger, as he that is born in the land when he blasphemes.
As well as the stranger. Why is he a stranger? Because his father's an Egyptian that was born in the land. So that kills right there, just goes right with you, what you just said. That's your second witness. What Elder just says, that is BS doctrine that you Israel because of your mom. You a stranger. Go ahead.
Shall certainly stone him, as well as a stranger, and he that is born in the land when he blasphemes the name of Yahweh shall be put to death.
All right. So whether you Israel or whether you got an Israelite mama and you born in that land, you blaspheme Yah's name, you gonna get that judgment. And praise Yah, we in a grace period right now because there'll be a lot of stoned brothers and sisters out right now, including everybody in this room would have been stoned at some point. So we can't never forget that mercy. Let's go to Ezra chapter 9.
Shall be one manner of law for the stranger and the foreigner.
Ezra is after Kings and Chronicles. So we gonna smash all the cherry picking. We're gonna try at least to smash all the cherry picking today. because this doctrine is usually coming from the black Hebrew Israelite religion. The fact that you have to call yourself a black Hebrew Israelite lets me know that you're not educated. All of the Israelites were melanin people, period. Ezra chapter 9, and we're going to start that at verse 1, and we're going to go through chapter 10 and verse 17.
Now when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Yasharal and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites.
All right, so it's talking about these people have taken wives of these nations right here. Where were they? They were back into the land, and they married these wives after they came out of Babylon, went back in the land, and took of those nations that were around them that Yahweh said, no, stay away from these people. Stay away from these people. Then it's also talking about Egyptians, Amorites, Moabites, all these nations right here. Go ahead.
For they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers has been chief in this trespass. And when I heard this thing, I rent my garment and my mantle, and plucked off the hair of my head and of my beard, and sat down astonished. Then were assembled unto me everyone that trembled at the words of Elohim of Yasharal, because of the transgression of those that had been carried away. And I sat astonished until sacrifice. And at the evening sacrifice I rose up from my heaviness, and having rent my garment and my mantle, I fell upon my knees, my hands unto Yahweh my Elohim, and said, O my Elohim, I am ashamed to blush, to lift up my face to you, my Elohim, for our iniquities are increased over our head, and our trespasses grown up unto the heavens. Since the days of our fathers have we been in a great trespass unto this day. And for our iniquities have we, our kings and our priests, been delivered into the hands of the kings of the lands, to the sword, to captivity, and to a spoil, and to confusion of face, as it is this day. And now for a little space, grace has been shown from Yahweh our Elohim to leave us a remnant to escape, and to give us a nail in his holy place, that our Elohim may lighten our eyes and give us a little reviving in our bondage. For we were bondmen, yet our Elohim has not forsaken us in our bondage, but has extended mercy unto us in the sight of the kings of Persia, to give us a reviving, to set up the house of our Elohim, and to repair the desolations thereof, and to give us a wall in Yehuda and in Jerusalem. And now, O our Elohim, what shall we say after this? For we have forsaken your commandments, which you have commanded by the servants, the prophets, saying, the land which you go to possess it is an unclean land, with the filthiness of the people of the lands, with their abominations, which have filled it from one end to another with their uncleanness. Now therefore give not your daughters unto their sons, neither take their daughters unto your sons, nor seek the peace of their wealth forever, that you may be strong and eat the good of the land, and leave it for an inheritance to your children forever.
So what was he replying to? What was he referring to?
Deuteronomy.
He was referring to the law we just read that called out the specific nations. But up here in verse 9, we're seeing Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, but we also see Moabites and Egyptians. So not only of the people of the land, but they also took some other people. So keep that in mind. The law said specific to those nations. But in verse 1, in opening, there's a few other nations in there. So keep that in mind as we continue reading. Go ahead.
Verse
13.
And after all that has come upon us for our evil deeds and for our great trespass, seeing that you, our Elohim, has punished us less than our iniquities deserve, and has given us such deliverance as this. Should we again break your commandments and join in affinity with the people of these abominations? Would not you be angry with us till you has consumed us, so that there should be no remnant nor escaping? O Yahweh, Elohim of Yasharal, you are righteous, for we remain yet escaped as it is this day. Behold, we are before you in our trespasses. We cannot stand before you because of this.
Chapter 10 and verse 1, Ezra.
Now when Ezra had prayed, when he had confessed, weeping, and casting himself down before the house of Elohim, there assembled unto him out of Yasharal a very great congregation of men and women and children, for the people wept very sore. And Shechaniah, the son of Yahiel, one of the sons of Elam, answered and said unto Ezra, we have trespassed against our Elohim and have taken strange wives of the people of the land. Yet now there is hope in Yasharal concerning this thing.
Okay, they've taken strange wives of the people of the land. What land are they talking about?
Israel, Yasharal.
They're talking about the land of Yasharal. Is Egypt in that land?
No.
It's in Abraham's inheritance, but it's not in Israel. It's not in the land of Canaan. Go ahead.
Now, let us therefore make a covenant with our Elohim to put away all the wives and such as are born of them, according to the counsel of Yahweh, and of those that tremble at the commandment of our Elohim, let it be done according to the law.
Let it be done according to the law. We just read the laws concerning what nations you could not take. The nations of the land that we went into. So this has to be now handled according to the law. If it was just anybody who had a strange wife, a wife of another nation, then it's easy. Okay, who ain't Israel? You ain't Israel? Okay, all these people get out of here. It'd be one fatal swoop. Whoop. You ain't such and such daughter. You ain't such and such father. You ain't for such and such. Get out of here. There would be no need for no counsel. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Arise, for this matter belongs unto you. We also will be with you of good courage, and do it. Then arose Ezra and made the chief priests, the Levites, and all Yasharal to swear that they should do according to this word, and they swear. Then Ezra rose up from before the house of Elohim and went into the chamber of YahNatan, the son of Elishab. And when he came there, he did eat no bread, nor drink water, for he mourned because of the transgression of them that had been carried away. And they made proclamation throughout Yehudah and Jerusalem unto all the children of the captivity, that they should gather themselves together unto Jerusalem. And that whosoever would not come within 3 days, according to the counsel of the princes and the elders, and all his substance should be forfeited, and himself separated from the congregation of those that had been carried away. Then all the men of Yehudah and Benjamin gathered themselves together unto Jerusalem in 3 days. It was the 9th month, on the 20th day of the month, and all the people sat in the street of the house of Elohim, trembling because of this matter.
Okay, so from the 20th day of the 9th month is when they sat to deal with this matter. Go ahead.
And for the great rain. And Ezra the priest stood up and said unto them, you have transgressed, and have taken strange wives to increase the trespass of Yasharal. Now therefore make confession unto Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, and do his pleasure, and separate yourselves from the people of the land and from the strange wives. Then all the congregation answered and said with a loud voice, as you have said, so must we do. For the people are many, and it is a time of much rain, and we are not able to stand without, neither is this a work of 1 day or 2. For we are many that have transgressed in this thing. Let now our rulers of all the congregation stand, and let all them which have taken strange wives in our cities come at appointed times, and with them the elders of every city, and the judges thereof, until the fierce wrath of our Elohim for this matter be turned from us.
So why would they need to bring up these wives and these family to these elders?
if it was just everybody that wasn't Israel, get out, you wouldn't need to do that. You just put them all out. You knew that this people wasn't from here, or they look differently, or they don't have no paperwork. Get them out. But they had to be some kind of counsel for a reason. Go ahead.
Verse 15. Only YahNatan, the son of Ashael, and Yahaziah, son of Tikva, were employed about this matter, and Meshullam, the son of Sabbatai, the Levite, helped them. And the children of the captivity did so, and Ezra the priest, with certain chief of the fathers after the house of their fathers, and all of them by their names, were separated and sat down in the first day of the 10th month to examine the matter. And they made an end with all the men that have taken strange wives by the first month, by the first day of the first month.
So it took them all the way from the 10th month, by the first day of the 10th month, to the first day of the first month to do this thing, because they had to sit down with all these wives and do it according to the law. That means all those people that took wives of the land, them people had to go. If it was just everybody that took a strange wife, a wife of another nation, then it would have been a fail swoop. Whoever don't got no paperwork, let's go. So there had to be some counsel. They had to examine the matter. Where, you married this woman, she not of Israel. What nation is she from? Who's her father? Who's her mother? This, that, and the other. Does she worship Yahweh? This, that. There had to be some kind of inquiry into that. But people always like to use that. Oh, you see Ezra, they took the women, they kicked them all out. And the children and everything, they kicked them all out. But clearly, if you read the whole chapter, they're telling them to do this according to the law. If you don't know the law, anybody can tell you anything. They can tell you, oh yeah, anybody that's not Israel, kick them all out. They all bad. They wicked. They're all devil worshipers. They can tell you anything. But if you actually go in the law and read what is the law, and y'all don't leave no loopholes. He tell you exactly what he wants, and then he tells you why I want this done. Now we're going to go to Numbers chapter 12, Bamidbar chapter 12, and we're going to deal with Aaron and Miriam, how they opposed Moshe with the wife that he took.
And brother, it's interesting too that Yahweh should show them mercy to establish their nation, and the sin was almost immediate.
As soon as they got back, they cleaved on to these other nations.
And Ezra felt a way about it. Like, do you want his wrath to be kindled on us again?
Right.
So they went into diligent inquiry about it.
Right.
For the holidays.
And rightfully
right.
so.
Right.
If all of a sudden, we get delivered from out of here, and we get land in some place, and they say this is your land. If I see we start eating pork, I'll be like, look, man, y'all need to stop. We have to be a righteous nation. Can't you see the rest of these nations are being delivered into wickedness?
Right.
Should we have crimes being committed among us?
Right. Right.
If we want to be, the throne is only established by righteousness. Why are y'all wanting to do this wickedness again?
Right.
So I could definitely sympathize with
You
that.
had some of them that had wives when they were in captivity that were of other nations, but they were in Babylon. They were far off. And they took those wives and they brought the wives and their children with them. That's different than like Moshe. When he took his wife, he was in Midian. He was around the Cushite. He was over there. Okay. He took that wife. Gershom and what's his name? That's one thing. But then to come now into Canaan and take the daughters of Canaan, knowing that even Yitzhak was like, stay away from those women. That's a whole nother story. You didn't have to come over back into the land and deal with the women of the abomination that could possibly cause you to curse our nation all over again. It's a whole different matter. Go ahead, Elder.
Circumcising this.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want. He should know. Why? He was away from Yahweh's will.
Right.
So, since he didn't want to do it, Yahweh made it occurs to me, like a man, do it at it. That should never happen. A family that worships Yahweh, from birth.
Right.
You know what I mean? It never happened. Grew up in it. Still, you see an issue.
Right. His wife took care of that business, though.
Yep.
She took care of that business. That woman was, these other Canaanite nations might not have took care of that
That's
business.
right.
And Moshe might have just got killed because Yahweh was about to kill him. Yahweh was like, oh, and Moshe did this and the children of Yasharal. Praise Yah. And Yahweh was getting ready to keep you like, whoa, what happened? Just that week, he was just talking about how great Moshe was doing a good job. Then the next verse, he about to get killed. Don't follow your father's instructions. If that woman will lead you not to keeping Yahweh's law, you can go from being a great man, doing great things for your nation, to getting killed. Numbers chapter 12, and we're going to deal with Aaron and Miriam trying to check Moshe about the woman that he took. But Moshe didn't break the law.
And also, brother, in addition to those men that they kept, notice that they kept track of which one of these men had to put away their wives.
Mm-hmm.
That means that the children had to keep track of, like, these children are Israel, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I have heard of places in Afghanistan where the kids are all named Ben Yosef or something like that, or Ben, like they're children of something.
Right.
But they're not in the land.
Right.
But they're like, our names are this. Like, we're Israel.
And you tracked it because
The father's
the
name.
4th generation, this one can come in. The 10th generation, that one can come in. This one, you can't come in at all. So they track those children. So that was a good point.
Lord, yeah.
I want you to also. So they said. So they was talking about,
Right.
Ethiopian people. Hamites.
Right.
Cushites.
You don't have a problem with Ham. You don't have a problem with Egypt.
No, we don't have a problem with Egypt. I remember.
Cush, yeah.
Yeah, with Cush.
Cush, it was a Midianite, but Midia and Cush was, all of that was called Ethiopia back in the day anyways.
Yes.
So what we call Africa, all that was called Ethiopia back in the day. So Cush, it was Midianite, but they called her Cushite. So she was an Ethiopian woman of Midian. But that's not of the nations in the 7 nations of Canaan. He dealt with those other nations at a certain extent. But the Canaanite nation said, kill them off. So he gave us laws pertaining to taking these women of other places, especially while you're in their land. But when you come in your land, you don't take the nations or the people in the land in your land. It's just as simple as that.
And brother, here in Genesis 10:19, it talks about where the Canaanites abided.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all it says the border of the Canaanites was from Zidon as you come to Gerar unto Gaza, as you go unto Sodom and Gomorrah. So they were just all in Yah's land.
All of that was land of Shem. That's all the land of Shem. They ain't supposed to be there. Egypt and all that, that was fine. They dwelt in Ham. They dwelt where they were supposed to dwell. So Bamidbar, chapter 12, Numbers chapter 12, and we're going to start this at verse 1.
And Miriam, the son of Aaron, spoke against Moshe.
No, Miriam and Aaron.
Oh, and Miriam, son of Aaron, I'm all messed up. And Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moshe because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married. For he had married an Ethiopian woman.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, has Yahweh indeed spoken by Moshe only? Has he not spoken also by us? And Yahweh heard it?
That was the real issue. Has Yahweh spoken by you only? Don't he speak about me through us too? So they was jealous. So when they're jealous, they look for a point of offense, but they didn't fully understand the law. They thought they caught him in a trespass, but they didn't. Go ahead.
Now the man Moshe was very meek above all men which were upon the face of the earth. And Yahweh spoke suddenly unto Moshe and unto Aaron and unto Miriam, come out, you three, unto the tabernacle of the congregation, and they came out.
Now, if Moshe was transgressing the law, would Yahweh have dealt with it that way? He would have dealt with it differently. But he checked them immediately because I knew what was in your heart. You tried to get offense against my servant who I'm chose, which means you find an offense in me, saying that I'm putting up, I'm making somebody that's going to be like a god unto you, a transgressor. I'm taking this wicked person and put him in there. So what you saying that about me? You talking about me now. So he called them out immediately. Y'all come out. I'm about to deal with this. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And Yahweh came down in the pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, Yahweh, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moshe is not so, who is faithful in all my house.
So if he's faithful in all his house, he not transgressing commandments. Go ahead.
With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches, and in the similitude of Yahweh. He shall behold. Wherefore then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moshe? And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moshe, Alas, my sovereign, I beseech you, lay not this sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned.
So Aaron couldn't be turned leprous because then he couldn't do his job. So sometimes your job will save you from your own transgression. But you still gonna get dealt with. Go ahead.
Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when it comes out of his mother's womb. And Moshe cried unto Yahweh, saying, Heal her now, O El, I beseech you. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, If her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that let her be received in again. Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people sojourned not until Miriam was brought in again. And afterward the people removed from Hazeroth and pitched in the wilderness of Paran.
All right. Now, if she had checked Moshe for transgressing the law, Yahweh could not just strike her with leprosy. He'd have to deal with the fact that, okay, Moshe transgressed the law, but this is an Ethiopian woman. This is not a woman of the Canaanites. He didn't transgress no law here. Furthermore, he was in their land and took that wife. He wasn't in our land and took the wife. That's different, because if you'd have took the wife in our land, that means he would have took the wife of those Canaanite nations. Different. Just like different when Ezra, when he had to deal with the people that came in the land and took the wives of the land according to the law, and had to see the difference between somebody who had a land or took a wife in captivity of some of those other nations. There's a difference. Now let's go to Ruth chapter 1. So again, we just read the lineage of the Mashiach in Matthew chapter 1, Mattathiah chapter 1, and we see of Ruth, Obed, and this is directly in the lineage of the Mashiach. Right before Kings. Right before Kings. And it's before Shemuel.
Nice little pamphlet.
Ruth chapter 1, and we're going to read that through chapter 2 and verse 12. Yes, sir.
We'll take care of that because
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Zipporah,
Mm-hmm.
wind up taking care of that business.
Right.
Because Moshe would have died. Because he did not. Also,
Of course.
So level of spirit knew because he had married much because he would have been dealt with, but since he was called to reach, Yahweh still talked to her. Listen, and she did the thing, even though she did in anger, emotions.
Right.
The deed was taken care of. And saved him and saved her.
Right.
So that's why Yahweh's going to abandon his wife.
Right.
It's something reachable. Wife, even if it's an anger problem,
right.
The wife to save the family.
Right. That's a good point. And the mother's gonna have the child too. So Moshe might have not wanted to snatch that child out of the mother's hand and do the deed. Mm-hmm. But obviously, Moshe was pausing for a minute to do the deed, and Moshe never paused to do the law. And that's where it causes, where these women of these other nations, it cause you to pause from doing righteousness, and depending on how long that pause is, could cause you your life. And that's why, praise Yah, his wife stepped up and did what she had to do, and that had to be incredibly hard for her, because this is a strange tradition and law for her to do that to your children, to cut off some skin, so there had to be some certain spirit on her too to do that, because these Canaanite women obviously wouldn't have done that. They'd have been like, they probably would have tried to kill Moshe. You're gonna try to cut my son thing off.
And also too, look at the curse that took over Miriam. Moshe was afraid, terrified, like, no, don't let her be as one that the life is half
baby
gone.
That comes out the womb dead. Yeah. That be no blood going through you. The child been dead.
Terrified to see her basically
have no. Like, this is a strange thing leprous. At this time. See somebody with no color, like whoa. Are you alive?
And around black folk?
You alive? I done seen ruddy people, but are you alive?
Then think about her name. Her name is Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
So you could, it was to a state when she,
right.
Yahweh coming down immediately like that. How fast he called them out.
Right.
So
you checking the man about the law who's given the law. Like he don't know the law. He knows the law. But he didn't even have to address the law. Yahweh took care of that business for the fact that, first of all, I ain't got to worry about my servant keeping the law. He's the lawgiver. He keeps the law. He's already proven that to me. But I'm going to skip right past that. I'm going to check what's in your heart, you and your brother, that jealousy. But I can't deal with Aaron like that because he's got a job to do, but he going to get dealt with. Ruth chapter 1, and I'm glad you're talking about what names mean. We're going to get into that. Ruth chapter 1.
Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Yehudah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech,
mm-hmm.
and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilon, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Yehudah, and they came into the country of Moab and continued there.
All right, so these was Israelites that went to Moab. All right, the first son was Mahlon and the second one was Chilion. And interesting, talking about names. These are Israelites, but look at their names. Machlon is H4248. Machlon, spelled Machlon. His name literally means sick. From H2470, sick. So that's the first one. The second name was Chilion, which is H3630. Chilion, H3631, spelled Killah. Kilion. Kilion. And that's funny, that's the name of my high school. Kilion. Pining, destruction, consumption, failing. So the first son name was sick, the other one was destruction, pining, consumption, and failing. Israelites. All right? But they Israel, right? They Israel. And they're going into Moab. This is how important being Israel is to Yahweh. See what happens to these two young men. Go ahead.
And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons.
So this dude died, the father. Go ahead.
And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth.
Okay, women of Moab. They Moabites. Or they be Israelites that were from Israel that came to Moab. If that was the case, then they would have mentioned that in the description, just like they mentioned that Elimelech went over there to Moab and his wife went over there to Moab. But no, they didn't mention that these women were Israelites that just happened to dwell in Moab. They said they women of Moab. So you got to create a whole new doctrine and add a whole bunch of pages in here to make these women that he's calling of Moab Israelites. And brothers still try to do that to make everybody Israel. Go ahead.
And they took them wives, verse 5. And Mahlon and Chilon died also, both of them, and the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. And she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab. She had heard in the country of Moab how that Yahweh had visited his people in giving them bread.
All right, so these brothers, 2 Israelites, who are supposed to be bringing righteousness to these women of this nation that worships these different gods, Baal and all these other gods, but yet the brothers died off. Now, we know from reading the story, one of these sisters was virtuous. So just because you Israel and you marry another woman of another nation, don't mean that you the righteous one. The righteous one will be a woman of another nation, and a virtuous woman, if she has a wicked husband, that husband can get removed. Yahweh will remove that husband from that virtuous woman, and he will give her a man of Yahweh. We've seen that, and we about to see it here. Go ahead.
Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how Yahweh had visited his people in giving bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return into the land of Yehudah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house. Yahweh deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me.
Go to your mother's house.
Yahweh grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with you to your people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there not yet more sons in my womb that may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would you tarry for them till they were grown? Would you stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughter, for it grieves me much for your sakes that the hand of Yahweh is gone out against me. And they lifted up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. And she said, Behold, your sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and to her gods. Return you after your sister-in-law.
So the Orpah returned back to her nation and unto her gods. But Ruth clave on to Yasharal. All right, let's stop there. Let's jump to chapter 2.
And Naomi's kinsman of her husband, a mighty man of wealth, the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz.
The same Boaz that's in the lineage of the Mashiach. Just read that. Go ahead.
And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, Let me go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after her reapers. And her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, Yahweh be with you. And they answered him, Yahweh bless you. Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, Whose damsel is this? And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, It is the Moabitess damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and has continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little while in the house. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, Hear you not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from here, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let your eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go you out after them. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch you? And when you are athirst, go unto the vessels, and drink of that which the young men have drawn. Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground, and said unto him, Why have I found grace in your eyes, that you should take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? And Boaz answered and said unto her, It has fully been showed me all that you have done unto your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you have left your father and your mother in the land of your nativity, and are come into a people which you know not heretofore. Yahweh recompense your work, and a full reward be given you of Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal, under whose wings you are come to trust.
All right, so he has seen the righteousness that was in her and how she clave on to Yahweh despite the husband dying. So if the husband was the only thing that the reason why she was with Yah, then she had no reason to stay. She could have just went back to her father's house to worship her father's gods. And it's funny that they call it her mother's house. So they reconcile a little bit different in Moab, because obviously the father and mother were still around, because he said you could have went to your father and your mother. But it says, oh, go to your mother's house. So they obviously reconcile a little bit different over there. But instead she cleaved on. And because she cleaved on to Yasharal, Yahweh took care of her and gave her, which we see in the rest of the story, a righteous husband, a righteous servant of Yah. Now, interesting, he mentioned the words wings. Yahweh has took you under the wings, because she grabbed a hold of the commandments. She was covered under the laws of Yahweh. The wings was kanaf, which we understand is in the fringes, that has the fringes. So this has all to do with her cleaving onto the commandments of Yahweh, and Yahweh covered her under those commandments. Because now, because of the first of kin, she now gets a covering.
And brother, the interesting part too is, this is a good example of how Yasharal will deal with the nations that cleave unto them in peace. Mm-hmm. And when the nations come, they should see such a good presentation. You come and there's men servants, maid servants, right, and there's order, right, and they can be well received under Yah's covering, right, if they want to hold on to these commandments, if they grab hold, if they cleave onto these laws. So she came, and the women were in order, and then he said, "Didn't you not charge the men not to touch you? No one's going to trouble you." Whereas in Moab, it may have been rough, being that they came from a lineage of incest, right? So when you cleave onto Yah's law, there should be order, and this is how every Israelite should go about presenting order to the nations. That look, we cleave onto these laws, and we know how to treat the alien and the stranger, and we know how to preserve our own culture as well, and not get just diluted in the culture of the heathen.
Right. And y'all, and it shows she saw Yahweh dealt. Obviously, them husbands had some issues. You look at their names, let you know that they had some issues, and they died. No children, nothing. But yet she got whatever righteousness she could get out of them. She learned Yah through them. And she heard about how Yah had, freed the children of Yasharal and everything like that. And she clave onto that. So who are you to say that you can't deal with this woman because she of another nation. This woman is in the lineage of the Mashiach. Let's hear the conclusion. We're going to go to Acts chapter 10. Because ultimately, a lot of that stuff we read was Old Testament stuff, which is out pertaining into the land. But outside of the land, we're going to see how this door has been opened up. If these other nations can now receive salvation in the Holy Spirit, who are you to say that they can't be covered by a man of Yasharal? Acts chapter 10 and verse 1.
There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band, a devout man, and one that feared Elohim with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to Elohim always. He saw in a vision evidently about the 9th hour of the day an angel of Elohim coming to him, saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, my master? And he said unto him, Your prayers and your alms are come up for a memorial before Elohim. And now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. He lodges with one Simon a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He shall tell you what you ought to know. Ought to do. And when the angel which spoke unto Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter, went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, fell into a trance. And he saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners, let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts on the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, master, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spoke unto him again the 2nd time, What Elohim has cleansed, that call not you common.
So what Elohim has cleansed, and the only way Elohim can cleanse anybody is with this word, with this righteousness, with this immersion, with this being taken under the kanaf, under the wings of Yahweh. So any person, man, woman, child, or whatever, that is cleaving on to this righteousness is not common or unclean anymore. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Verse 16. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house, and stood before the gate, and called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, Behold, 3 men seek you. Arise therefore, and get you down, and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, Behold, I am he whom you seek. What is the cause wherefore you are come? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one that fears Elohim, and of good report among all the nation of the Yehudim, was warned from Elohim by a holy angel to send for you into his house, and to hear words of you. Then called he them and lodged with them. And on the morrow Kepha went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him. And on the morrow, after they entered Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them, and had called together his kinsmen and near friends.
And just think about the kind of faith. You can't be no fearful man. A centurion's people come looking for you, saying, you need to come over here and talk. People, they trying to kill these brothers already, man. So this brother wasn't afraid to do his job. Kepha got up. This is the same person that that, failed that test with the Mashiach. I don't know him. I don't know him. He not failing no more tests. The Centurion, the Italian band sent their people over there. He knows about Yah's business. He just had this vision. He got up and he moved without fear. Verse 25.
And these are of the people that are occupying the land.
Exactly.
The Yehudim hated
It's like
them.
the police come knocking at your door and then telling you about Yah's business.
Police chief wants to talk to you about
Yeah,
Yahweh.
I mean, I would be a little concerned, but if I just had a vision from Yah, I'd be like, this is of Yah. It's time to go.
And Yah would do that. He would give you those dreams that are a little outlandish. And you're like, what is this about? And then you go through it and you're like, oh, okay. He just teach you to just keep having faith and trust.
Right.
Verse 25. And as Peter, Kepha, was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, stand up, I myself also am a man. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, you know how it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Yehudim to keep company or to come unto one of another nation. But Elohim has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Notice it doesn't say food there. It says man.
Call any man common or unclean. This had nothing to do with food.
This was a dream and a vision, just like how Yosef had a dream that all the ferns and the stars are bowing down to him.
Right. It's not about ferns and stars.
It's not.
That's how people take out the context.
No, nobody said that. They don't want to know.
But a lot of people don't even view the scriptures from the nation lens, from the lens of nationality and tribes and peoples that Yahweh himself separated and set up. You know, they keep looking at it from a very Unitarian Catholic
From
viewpoint.
a Gentile perspective.
Gentile
Greek
viewpoint.
thinking.
Not knowing that Yahweh has set up his army, his battle axe on the earth. And if you're not of this, you're a Gentile. And and the whole Bible, Torah, New Testament is surrounded by Israel and how Israel's relation to the Gentiles, whether it be is Israel in rebellion so that the Gentiles gain favor for a time. So be it. But everything is between the battle between Yah getting Israel in order and how he's dispensing his favor unto the Gentiles. But they are two different things being joined together through the Mashiach. Right.
Analogy also understand it.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
let them understand. This is the worship.
Right. And also, brother, if this is something we could look into later. In Matthew 21:43, Yeshua says, I say unto you, the kingdom of Elohim shall be taken from you and given unto a nation bringing forth the fruits thereof. And we know how that nations and Gentiles can be misconstrued. So Yeshua could be saying, whatever you have as authority as Yehudim is going to be taken from you and dispersed among the Gentiles, to the point where he even said, the holy city shall be given unto the Gentiles to trample underfoot. While everyone else while the holy Yehudim goes into captivity, which has happened unto this day.
All right, so we're going to stop right there. We know as we read further on, Kepha says that if the Holy Spirit is given out to the Gentiles, then, how are we going to stop them from receiving this word? So if the Holy Spirit is given out to these people of these other nations, if they're going to cleave onto this word, because the Holy Spirit not going to cleave on to an unclean vessel that does not want to keep righteousness, because it's going to be pushed away. It's a spirit, it's an angel, just like anybody else, and it does not like uncleanness. So And all in all, we just wanted to go over those laws again. My personal opinion, which is not to down talk anybody, because I'm the product of a interracial marriage. But at the end of the day, I decided I wanted to marry of my faith, of an Israelite of my bloodline, because I didn't know it at the time, but as in coming into the word, to understand that, our nation, our women need covering. These other nations can't cover our women like that. We have enough problems. We got enough people trying to kill us off and trying to kill our race and our nation. And that's how it can be killed off, by leaving our daughters out there and our sisters out there to fend for themselves. So that's my personal belief. But if another individual wants to take a woman of another nation, as long as, again, we can't identify who the Canaanite nations are, but as long as that woman is not pushing him away from Yahweh or causing him to serve other gods, then he hasn't done anything unlawful. But if you take a woman of your nation, one of your descendants of slaves, and she's causing you to serve other gods, that's unlawful. Because you're going to die in that manner unless you repent. So it's not as easy as saying, well, if she's black, it's okay. If she's white, it's not okay. That is a very simplistic and lack of understanding concept. But also you look at how things were dealt. If you had took that wife before, when you was in captivity, that was one thing. When you came back and you freed, like we received this understanding, we know who we are, and you take another strange wife at that point, that's a different story from before to after you're in this truth and you do those things. So let's keep that in mind, and let's always look at the spirit of this law. Things have changed since the Mashiach came about, where the Holy Spirit was now given out to these people, these other nations. So at the end of the day, all of them are going to have to assimilate in towards us. But again, glory and honor and peace to the Yehudim first, and then the Gentiles. So we should be seeking our own people first. They're going to have their time. There may be a time where we might be taking wives of other nations, because we have 7 women to grab. Let me get your last name. Let me get Israel. Let me get your name. That could be pertaining to women of other nations. We don't know that. But right now we a nation building. And that's why also with Ezra's like, man, we coming back into our land, trying to reset up righteousness. How you going to be coming in here taking all these other nations when we got to rebuild our own nation right here? So let's keep that in mind. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer? All right. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem.